So, hi, everybody. Today I'm here on this rainy day in Western Massachusetts talking to my friend and colleague, David Sharkin.
Hello,
He's
everybody.
he's a mentor with us with Rainmaker Consulting. And we've been talking about this idea, and there's a blog attached to this video that has to do with building a culture of philanthropy committee, establishing one within your organization. And we sometimes get pushback on that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But let me ask David, do you have anything you want to add to what we're going to be doing today before we dive right into the back and forth?
Well, I think the big question that we get, Lori, is how do you make it happen? How do you get a culture of philanthropy rolling? And what we know is sometimes you have to make system changes. And the change here is to make a commitment to a body, an integrated body of board and staff that makes a commitment that they will pay attention to the culture of philanthropy.
Great. And that is a key purpose of the Culture of Philanthropy Committee, distinct from a fundraising committee. And that is sometimes where we get some pushback. You've heard a little bit of that, right, David? What's it like? What? Another committee, right?
Yeah, that just what you said is, oh, it's not the fundraising committee. It used to be the development committee, and now you're calling it the Culture of Philanthropy Committee. It's not just renaming it, it's really looking at an integrated approach that goes across the whole organization. Think of it as a design and build firm, that it's about the dream of what you want to create in your organization. Along with that are plans and goals. And this committee is the one that sees the whole procedure all the way through from dream to reality.
Right. And one organization that I work with, and we were talking about this before we started on this video, we talk about like, what does it mean to integrate a culture of philanthropy into your mission of your organization? Well, if you have one of these committees, they're keeping their eye out when it comes time to do strategic planning to make sure that the narrative and the process of building a culture of philanthropy becomes part of that whole process.
Yeah, and absolutely. The other role that at the beginning that this group plays is the looking for the shadow or the negativity that might be out there, and really finding the places of abundance, because every organization has a culture of philanthropy already growing. You have to have a group that identifies it and nurtures it and finds a way to keep it going.
Right. And actually helps to push back the scarcity thinking that might
Yeah.
be coming up against that. So, one piece of that scarcity thinking is what? A whole other committee. And so, I want to say for the record that I'm not suggesting you have a fundraising committee and a culture of philanthropy committee. What we're doing by renaming it and calling it Culture Philanthropy Committee is actually educating people and having an opportunity to talk about the things that distinguish a culture of philanthropy. So, for example, the idea of philanthropy versus fundraising, sometimes people think that means let's go for those wealthy one percenters that can make those mega gifts. And we like to educate people and talk about, well, actually, the Greek root of philanthropy is love of mankind. We like to make it gender neutral, call it love of humankind, and start to think about how people love our mission and how they want the world to be a better place and that they want to contribute in some way or another. And so when we start to redefine philanthropy that way, we start to have a chance to reframe this idea of resources and go away from an old paradigm, an old framework of, oh, we better go arm twist and we better convince people to give to us. Instead, we're really pulling out the best in all of us and allowing lots of people to contribute whatever it is that they have in abundance.
That's why a culture of philanthropy committee can pay attention to the places within the organization where those mission moments are happening. So you're reaching out to staff, to volunteers. It's not just a board function, it's not just an executive leadership function. In fact, we want the makeup of this kind of committee to be consciously integrated across the organization, because we're going to be looking for abundance across the organization, and we're going to want to grow philanthropy. The culture has to be nurtured, and it can't happen in a silo. It has to be something that goes all the way across.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned mission moments, David. That's a key point. One of the functions in my mind of a Culture of Philanthropy Committee is to coordinate communications so that staff regularly come to board meetings and share those special moments when it was clear, there was a clear story, a narrative, a moment that illustrated that your work makes a difference. Getting those staff to come to board meetings to communicate that wonderful story allows board members to get in touch with the mission, but also to go out and speak it out into the community. And that's a key function. We very often want board members to go be ambassadors out in the community, but we need to give them something to work with. And that's where connecting staff and having them be a key part of the overall team building a culture of philanthropy can really make a difference.
That's why, Lori, you also, again, don't have to recreate the wheel. You know that you do board orientation and you're looking for board training opportunities. You're looking for strategic planning, visionary opportunities for staff and board and key volunteers or key community partners to come together and dream with you. So it's a part of that donor engagement, staff engagement, board engagement we all want to do anyways. This is creating a process and a procedure, if you will, that can set forth those goals and know whether you're gaining ground on this dream of resource abundance.
I love the way that you describe it, engineering it and building it and envisioning it and making it happen. And sometimes people don't think that culture change happens that way, but in fact, it has to be pretty intentional that you choose an abundant kind of mindset and an abundance philosophy for the board and for the leaders of the organization so that it goes throughout the organization, that it trickles down and up and over to everyone. And that's where the Culture of Philanthropy Committee can be so helpful. It's a really wonderful opportunity to train and teach people about the possibilities. It's really like a job in creating possibility for the whole agency.
Right. And don't think of it as, oh no, it's another thing that I have to do, another committee that I have to create. It's about overlaying a true vision on top of the operations that you're already doing. So you're doing member outreach and marketing. You're working with volunteers. You're doing certain programming that's out in the community. It's looking at all of those things that you're already doing, including board meetings, and adding on this approach, this philosophy that abundance is everywhere and the resources, if you identify them, can be found. You got to make the partnership happen.
Your point is so important, David, because we talk about the wheel of change, Robert Gass's model for cultural change within an organization. And what he says is that you have to work on behaviors, structures, and hearts and minds simultaneously. And that's what you just pointed to. You talked about some of the behaviors. You talked about putting structures in place. Those things are really important because it keeps it going on an ongoing basis. And the hearts and minds, in many cases, it's not about more work. It's about reframing your work so that you're doing many of the things that you did before, but you're doing them with a different twist and really looking for the opportunity to connect, to build partnerships, and to overall strengthen the funding of your agency with those connections. So many times, go ahead, David. Sorry.
Again, it is not about creating more work. It's about reframing the work that you're already doing, and in fact, refreshing it and sharing the accountability and the responsibility, and therefore the joys of success. You're making be more conscious about trying to create this new vision.
Well, I hope that these things were useful to you. And as you'll see, connected to this blog is a sample job description and charter for a Culture of Philanthropy Committee. I think you'll find lots of things in there that are useful. You can take them all or choose certain things that you can integrate into your own organization and your own structure. Anything to add to this, David?
Go for it, folks. You want more abundance. You want more resources coming to you. We're giving you some tools to make that happen.
Great. Good luck, everybody. Thanks so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.